So, Chris Salvador back. Want to talk about Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. I mean, we're talking about a lot of 2008 movies. They're coming out. This is a very big one. I don't know what much can be said about this. I mean, I read they just posted some new photos online, and I'm not feeling this movie. I know I always have a predisposed opinion to movies based on just images and things I read and not actually seeing the movie, but I feel like I just kind of get a vibe from this film that I really don't think this is going to be a really good Indiana Jones movie. And I know a lot of people say that, a lot of people, it has nothing to do, I mean, you got a great director, one of the greatest, Steven Spielberg's on this, you got George Lucas, and I know a lot of people don't like him particularly as a writer, and you got Harrison Ford, even though he's older now, and I think there's a lot of problems with this movie, and here's one of the first things that I read in the it was the Vanity Fair piece, and one of the things I read was that this idea, which was that they would chase this crystal skull or whatever the hell it is, that they weren't hot on it, and they didn't like it. Harrison Ford didn't like it. Steven Spielberg didn't like it. They weren't feeling it. It was George Lucas wanted to do it, and he was like, basically it came down to a sentence that said it was either that, the crystal skull would be the MacGuffin, or there would be nothing. There'd be no movie. So really, I think that's a very bad thing when you say things like that, because then it's kind of like, you might as well just national treasure it up and say there's a book of secrets or the search for the remote control or something. I mean, I don't. Indiana Jones was never really about that. I mean, yes, the Ark. I mean, as MacGuffins go, the Ark was one of the coolest MacGuffins you're ever going to get because it's connected to the Bible, and the Holy Grail was probably the second best with the Last Crusade. To kind of go now to a fake, made-up MacGuffin. I mean, if you really look into the history of crystal skulls, you know that they're fake. You know that they're bullshit. It was made up by somebody, and they were just. It's a Maltese falcon. It's just this fake object. It's not real. And so far with this movie, we know that supposedly crystal skulls were put down here by aliens, and that they can reveal secrets and information and lead to cities and treasures and things like that. But that's like I said, it's a fake MacGuffin. You might as well call it the Sword of a Thousand Truths from South Park. It's not real. We've already established that this was a fake thing. We've already established that. And I think a lot of the problem that I have with this is we don't, John Hurt, or one of the guys there, the guy that was in V for Vendetta, he's going to be playing, supposedly, we don't know yet. I mean, I remember when I used to call this movie Indiana Jones and the City of Gods, when they had the titles. He's kind of 2 years older than Harrison Ford is in real life, and he's supposedly, hopefully, not playing the dad, the Ravenwood dad, because that would be really ridiculous. And I'm not trying to kick a guy for age, but it's like, how are you going to cast somebody that's 2 years older than Harrison Ford to play the father of the daughter, the kid? Like, that's just ridiculous. And I think there's a lot of the problems that I have with this movie is that, like I said, that it's surmised in a sentence. This was, George Lucas had the rights to this, and he has to okay it to make it. And even though they weren't feeling this idea for the Crystal Skull, they were like, well, it was either that, George has to sign off on it, so he wants the Crystal Skull, or we don't have an Indiana Jones movie, and Harrison Ford's just getting older and older, we all got to do it, so let's just do it now. And Shia LaBeouf, I don't feel this movie, because I can tell you, I really feel like this movie would be infinitely better and infinitely greater if the search for the Crystal Skull was something that was happening with two actors. Like, I feel like this movie would be great had it been made with two other actors, and that's River Phoenix and Sean Connery. And I really feel like that's the best that this movie would ever be, is that if River Phoenix had played a young Indiana Jones, and Sean Connery, when he was, James Bond young, had played Henry Jones, I think that this film ultimately is a story about a father and his son going to search for something that we all will end up finding out is bullshit. I would love it if this movie was like Maltese Falcon. I would love an ending that was about, like, they went off searching for this thing only to realize that it was crap. It wasn't, it's the stuff, the dreams, like, it's nothing. It's a rock. It's bullshit. And I really feel like I don't know why, but I prefer that. For me, I think this is like a prequel movie that will work, because it's like, it's interesting. I mean, I know they did the Young Indiana Jones series and that wasn't too successful, but I always wanted to know, like, what was the thing that set Indiana Jones off on his journey to want to become an archaeologist, to become a historian, to become one of these people that looks into the past of things, or goes on these adventures, or goes on these things. And I always feel like he wasn't born with that in his blood. I mean, he was, but I always feel like he was kind of I always feel like it'd be cool to see Indiana Jones, like, on a path that was kind of like his dad was. Henry Jones was not always, didn't know how to really connect with his son. And you have, and like I said, just imagine Sean Connery or River Phoenix, and imagine the idea that you've got Indy, and he's kind of into girls, into, choppers, into, choppers, helicopters, yes, choppers. No, but into building things and girls and hot rods and all that crap. I know the time period is nothing. There's no hot rods in Indiana Jones' time. But to me, it was like, I always would have loved it if it was a story about a father and a son, and that it was kind of like Henry was just like, you know what, I'm going to take him on this journey with me. I'm going to try and connect with my son and go find this crystal skull thing with him. And then they go, and of course all the action things happen. People try to kill them. But that this young Indiana Jones realizes, wow, this is a really cool profession. This is really cool. And that the ending is different. In that, for one thing, you've got Henry Jones, who feels like a failure. He feels like shit at the fact that he followed this lead to this crystal skull, and then it was crap. It was a made-up thing. And he hated it, and then he kind of went off and was like, felt like bad in front of his son's eyes, felt that he was going to be, that he was duped, and then he was made fun of, and then that set him off to go find the Holy Grail, and never kind of be made a fool of again, and find a real MacGuffin, something that's actually real. But for Indiana Jones, it was a different thing, where it was like he didn't see it as a failure at all. He saw it as like that was the thing that woke him up to want to be Indiana Jones. That he was like, I love doing, it was an experience with my dad. We went off to look for this thing. It wasn't real, it was fake, but it was the journey that was important, not the destination, not the object. Going on this adventure, doing things with my dad, just finally understanding what I want to be and what I want to do with my life. And I feel like that is a story that like I said, that's a movie that we have to go. We'll never see that movie. We'll never see Sean Connery and River Phoenix do that movie. So what we're left with is a 1957 version of Shia LaBeouf and Harrison Ford, where it's true, you got Harrison Ford being his little bitch, riding on the back seat of the motorcycle, and possibly again the Raiders of the Ark. You've got just to show you how bad this thing's going to be, they have Russian bad guys. That is the most fucking Tom Clancy-esque stupid, like, everybody, you know you suck when you have to go to Russia for bad guys. Everybody goes to Russia for bad guys. I guess it's because Russia doesn't give a shit, or it's like if you gotta have a group of bad people, you either say that they're a rogue terrorist group of people who aren't really connected to any particular country, they're rogue terrorists like True Lies, or you just go, they're a bunch of bad Russians. Nazis, we can just generally hate them because they were Nazis. Everyone hated them, and the Jews hate them, and the Jews make all the movies anyway, so they just hate the Germans, and they're like, yeah, you guys were bad, so own up to it.